Welcome to the Touch Art channel. Today we will get acquainted with a Romanian artist who depicted the national identity of his country in his works. The video features many very beautiful works that will not leave anyone indifferent. For those who have not yet subscribed to the channel, I sincerely invite you to do so and join our community, and do not forget to like and comment on this video. We have a lot of interesting things to come. Let's go. Ion Teodorescu-Sion is not just an artist, but a true voice of the Romanian soul, which always echoes in his paintings. From the first glance at his work, a special world opens up before you, a world where simple, familiar images of the Romanian countryside take on an unexpected sound. Traditional scenes become something more when Sion, like a skilled alchemist, combines them with avant-garde artistic styles. His bold approach is a combination of bright colors and clean lines borrowed from primitivism to depict Romanian rural life in all its glory. Each brushstroke speaks of the grandeur and simplicity of existence. And at the same time, on a deeper level, his paintings reveal the influences of Western European movements such as Post-Impressionism, Cubism, and Symbolism. The first impression of his paintings may seem familiar: scenes of pastoral life, peasants, nature. But with every minute of looking at them, you feel that it is something more. Teodorescu-Sion skillfully transforms the ordinary into the symbolic, the familiar into the new. In his hands, even ordinary peasant labor becomes an artistic manifesto. He creates a dialogue between the past and the future, between the countryside and the city, where the old is intertwined with the new, creating a unique artistic language that tells the story of the soul of Romania through the prism of modernism. Ion Teodorescu-Sion became the key artist who built a bridge between ancient Romanian folklore and new trends in European art. In his works, one can clearly feel the desire to create a national style that would not only reflect Romania's past, but also make it part of the contemporary European artistic space. This was his great goal: to preserve the unique Romanian soul and show it to the world, making it understandable not only to Romanians, but also to everyone who looked at his paintings. Teodorescu-Sion not only skillfully recreated traditions, he intertwined them with modern European trends. Each of his works was thought out to the smallest detail, from the technical skill to the deep symbolism behind each element. His paintings carried the energy of the modernist movement, including the influences of artists such as Cezanne and Dura, but at the same time retained characteristic Romanian motifs such as shepherds, mountains, and scenes of rural life. Sion was not just an observer of cultural change, he actively participated in it. His paintings became part of a larger national movement that sought to create its own Romanian identity in art. He combined modernism and primitivism, thus embodying in his works Romania's struggle for self-determination between modernization and the preservation of ancient traditions. Ion Teodorescu-Sion was born on January 2, 1882, in the small village of Ianca, located in the county of Brăila. His childhood was spent among ordinary people, and this environment shaped his deep affection for peasant culture, which would become one of the main themes of his art. Sion's father worked for the railroad, and his mother came from a peasant family, which further brought the artist closer to the Romanian rural world. Since childhood, Ion spent a lot of time on the plains of Baragan, wide and open spaces, which undoubtedly influenced his artistic perception of the world. This simple yet majestic environment left a deep imprint on his work, particularly in his love of natural landscapes and the depiction of peasants, which have always been at the center of his attention. From an early age, he was interested in rural life and working on the land, which was reflected in his later paintings, where peasants and nature were presented as an integral part of Romanian identity. In 1894, after completing his primary and secondary education, Ion Teodorescu-Sion moved to Bucharest to continue his studies at the National School of Fine Arts. His first steps in art were related to academic approaches, where he studied the basics of classical drawing and painting, but even then he was interested in innovative ideas. In 1904, he received a scholarship from the Ministry of War, which opened the door for him to study at the École Nationale Supérieure des Beaux-Arts in France. There he was influenced by masters such as Paul Cézanne and André Derain, who inspired him to experiment with form and color. Paris, as the center of European art in the early 20th century, opened up new perspectives for young Schaun, including his fascination with Post-Impressionism, Fauvism, and Divisionalism. But despite these new artistic influences, he always remained attached to Romanian folk themes. This period of his life was also characterized by his rebellious spirit and interest in socialist ideas, which influenced his artistic position. He even squandered his scholarship money, which led to a conflict with his conservative mentors. In France, he went through many crises, including a stay in Algeria, where he wanted to join the French Legion, but all these events only hardened his character and creative views. After returning from France in 1907, Ion Teodorescu-Sion began to actively experiment with different artistic styles, searching for his unique artistic voice. His stay in Paris, where innovative ideas prevailed, gave him a solid foundation for his further search. Schaun brought home not only the influence of Impressionism, but also elements of Post-Impressionism and Symbolism, which were actively used in European art. His first significant works after returning to Romania reflect his fascination with symbolism, where he tried to capture the mystical nature of rural life. The artist used bright colors and flowing contours to create images of trees, peasants, and landscapes, giving them not only a visual aesthetic but also a deep symbolic meaning. The influence of Impressionism was expressed in the light palette and attempts to capture light and shadows, but this was not an ordinary reproduction of reality. Schaun's works had a deeper philosophical and symbolic component. These early works also reveal the artist's attempts to combine a realistic depiction of peasant life with modernist approaches, giving his paintings a sense of an inextricable link between the traditional and the modern. Rural themes, which characterize most of his paintings, became a way of conveying to viewers not only the appearance of the Romanian countryside, but also the inner depth of this life, its symbolism and spirituality. Schaun was open to various stylistic experiments. In his work, he tried to combine visual harmony with innovative elements coming from European masters. One of his major influences was Henri Fantin-Latour, a French artist whose works combined symbolic subjects with details reminiscent of academic realism. But already in 1908 to 1910, Schaun departed from these academic canons, seeking greater creative expression. Under the influence of Cubism, in particular the works of Georges Braque, the artist began to experiment with compositional solutions that made his works more structured and abstract. He gradually abandoned the decorative lines of the Art Nouveau style, and his works became increasingly geometric. With a clearer emphasis on shapes and masses, this period is also characterized by the influence of symbolism, which Schaun embodied in his depictions of trees, which became important symbolic objects for him. Trees, depicted as lonely and alienated, are often interpreted as symbols of human isolation, but at the same time they embody strength and endurance, similar to the village life that Schaun depicted in his paintings. Thus, between 1907 and 1914, Ion Teodorescu-Sion actively experimented with Cubism, Symbolism, realistic depiction, and even Fauvism, which allowed him to form his unique style, which combined modernist trends with Romanian folk motifs. The period of the First World War was a turning point in the life of Ion Teodorescu-Sion. In 1916, when Romania entered the war, he was appointed the official war artist of the Romanian army. This gave him the opportunity not only to participate in the war, but also to immortalize it on his paintings. Schaun depicted scenes from the lives of soldiers, their courage and suffering, showing war not only as a destructive force but also as a moment of testing the human spirit. The paintings created at this time are characterized by striking realism and emotional depth. He captured dramatic moments of battle and destruction, but also conveyed the feelings of soldiers and civilians suffering from the war. Among his most famous works of this period are images of battles at the front, as well as scenes of the retreat of the Romanian military under pressure from the Central Powers. Schaun showed not only the physical consequences of the war, but also the psychological trauma it left on people. After the war ended, Sion felt the need to return to his roots, to the Romanian countryside, which had always been an important element of his artistic vision. In the post-war period, he focused on the theme of peasant life, which became for him a symbol of national identity and resilience. His paintings reflected the simplicity and grandeur of peasant life, filled with deep symbolic meanings. Sion began to work on depicting rural life, paying special attention to the daily work of peasants. Landscapes, shepherds, and harvest scenes were all part of his recurring themes. However, these works were not only simple reflections of rural life, they carried deep symbolism and showed the Romanian countryside as the center of the nation's cultural and spiritual heritage. His paintings glorified the hard work, harmony with nature and inexhaustible strength of the Romanian people. In the 1920s, Sion actively collaborated with the literary magazine Grandeur, which brought together artists and writers who sought to create a new national art based on Romanian traditions. This collaboration inspired him to further his creative explorations in the field of Neo-Byzantine style. Sion sought to combine folk motifs with more monumental and archetypal images, creating paintings that had deep symbolic and spiritual significance. One of the important features of this period is his interest in experimenting with Neo-Byzantine forms and synthesizing folk and contemporary art. Sion began to create large canvases that combined elements of modernism with traditional Byzantine styles. These works reflected his desire to find a new form of expression of national identity while remaining faithful to Romanian tradition. His artistic pursuits were not only aesthetic but also ideological. Through the magazine Grandeur, Sion joined a movement that advocated the creation of art that was not only national in theme, but also combined contemporary European influences with Romanian spiritual and cultural traditions. He became one of the leading representatives of this movement, which sought to give Romanian art a new sound based on harmony between the past and the present. Sion began to work on depicting rural life, paying special attention to the daily work of peasants. Landscapes, shepherds, and harvest scenes were all part of his recurring themes. However, these works were not only simple reflections of rural life, they carried deep symbolism and showed the Romanian countryside as the center of the nation's cultural and spiritual heritage. His paintings glorified the hard work, harmony with nature and inexhaustible strength of the Romanian people. In the 1920s, Sion actively collaborated with the literary magazine Grandeur, which brought together artists and writers who sought to create a new national art based on Romanian traditions. This collaboration inspired him to further his creative explorations in the field of Neo-Byzantine style. Sion sought to combine folk motifs with more monumental and archetypal images, creating paintings that had deep symbolic and spiritual significance. One of the important features of this period is his interest in experimenting with Neo-Byzantine forms and synthesizing folk and contemporary art. Sion began to create large canvases that combined elements of modernism with traditional Byzantine styles. These works reflected his desire to find a new form of expression of national identity while remaining faithful to Romanian tradition. His artistic pursuits were not only aesthetic but also ideological. Through the magazine Grandeur, Sion joined a movement that advocated the creation of art that was not only national in theme, but also combined contemporary European influences with Romanian spiritual and cultural traditions. He became one of the leading representatives of this movement, which sought to give Romanian art a new sound based on harmony between the past and the present. His work has become a model of how to integrate modern European styles into national culture without losing its identity. This approach became an important guideline for Romanian art of the 20th century, which sought to find a balance between modernization and preservation of national traditions. Sion's work continues to live on in museums and private collections, including the National Museum of Art of Romania and the Zambaxian Museum. His paintings reflect not only his personal search for art, but also the broader process of the formation of Romanian national identity. Teodorescu-Sion left a legacy that is still a source of inspiration for artists exploring the theme of identity in a global context.